All right, what is up, everybody? Let's get right into Mock Draft Monday. I realized the last two I did were very, very similar. So we're going to have a little bit more variation here today. Obviously, Mendoza is going 1 overall to the Raiders, and the draft starts at 2. Everybody knows this. And I've been thinking, man, and the more I've watched some tape, and I was in the lab a little bit, but quite frankly, it was with mid-round players, not first-round players. So I still have a lot of homework to do on the first round of this draft. But the more I watch these edge rushers, this one right here, Ruben Bain Jr., he's the best edge. He has the best tape out of any edge rusher in this year's draft class. And I say that with Arvell Reese in the back of my mind saying, hey, if I develop, I might be the greatest edge rusher in the history of the sport. But Ruben Bain's tape off the edge and his production is way better than Arvell Reese's. And Arvell Reese also, or Ruben Bain also didn't play on one of the best defenses, not just last season, but that college football has ever seen. With Sonny Styles, Caden McDonald, the other senior, Caden Curry, just dogs. Another top 10 pick next year, and the other edge that was on this Ohio State defensive line that I'm not forgetting. Ruben Bain had a really good defense behind him. I know Keontae Scott, Akeem Messidor, all that. I get it. But it's not what Arvell Reese's was, and Ruben Bain was still more productive, and he put way better pass rush tape on film, and then you have that combined with the side-by-side of these two and their bend. I understand Ruben Bain has the arm length issues. Didn't impact his production, and he was fine against Indiana. He was fine against Notre Dame. So, I like Ruben Bain. I don't care. Ruben Bain at 2. Arizona at 3. They're in a position where they got to just go BPA. And at this point, right now, besides Jeremiah Love, but they're not going to go running back, I think the best player available is Sonny Styles, and I don't think it's generally close. Jeremiah Love and Sonny Styles are the best players in this draft class, and I think there is a little gap after that, and that includes Caleb Downs, that includes Fernando Mendoza, that includes your Jordan Tysons, your Arvell Reese's. I think Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love are just in that next upper echelon. Gun to my head, one of these players end up in a gold jacket. I'm saying Sonny Styles. His tape, matched with his production, matched with the athletic traits and his football IQ. I mean, there's not a run play where he's not around the line of scrimmage or around the ball. He mirrors running backs at a ridiculously elite level. He converted from safety, so you know he can be elite in coverage. Plus, he's a 4'4", 6'5" guy. He is going to be a problem. And I do get a little bit of Isaiah Simmons fatigue with him because Isaiah Simmons was nasty in college, and he does have the measurables, similar measurable thing, but it wasn't as productive. The tape wasn't as good with Simmons as it was with Sonny Styles. I think he is the best player on the board. That's what Arizona needs. They need BPA. They go Sonny Styles at 3. Now we have the Titans at 4, and if Arvell Reese was here, they should be licking their chops, chomping at the bit. They go Reese at 4. The Giants at 5 are also in a position where they need help everywhere except front 7. So you're looking at Sonny Styles off the board here. If you're the Giants, you're kind of upset. You're not the happiest camper in the world here. They don't need that much help at offensive line. They brought back Jermaine Illuminor. They have Andrew Thomas. They could use an interior offensive lineman, but you're not going to take, Oliver Vega, however you pronounce his name, from Penn State. You're not going to take him this early, right? So what do the Giants do here at 5? I think this is a sneaky trade back spot for the New York Giants. I'm not going to do it here. But keep an eye. Don't be shocked if the Giants were to trade back from this 5 spot. However, they do need help in the secondary. Caleb Downs does have some injury concern, but I feel like he's going to fall outside of the top 10 because of the lack for need at the position. However, the slot safety position has become a really, really hot commodity. And there's a difference between a slot safety and a nickel corner. I saw somebody make a video talking about how the nickel corner has revolutionized the game. No, there's a difference between Teron Johnson and Nick Eamon-Wari, right? Nick Eamon-Wari is going to line up all over the field. Teron Johnson's only going to be on the field for passing downs. But you want to have that extra defensive back that can also line up as a linebacker because the NFL shifted to nickel looks more than a base 4-3, base 3-4. So you're going to want an elite pass coverage player who can also be great in run fit. That's what you're getting out of Caleb Downs. That's why he makes so much sense to the Giants at 5. Lock up that slot safety position that I think a lot like the nickel corner position is going to have its own all-pro spot in a couple of years, in like 5-10 years. So get Caleb Downs, get your Nick Ebenwari, get your Kyle Hamilton, get your Cooper DeJean kind of fills this role, just not to the level of those two guys. Get your Caleb Downs here at the slot safety position. Not the most athletic cat, elite in coverage, elite against the run, really, really high IQ. And he's more athletic than I think a lot of people give him credit for. They're just ripping on him recently, and I don't think that's fair. But Caleb Downs at 5. Then the best wide receiver in this draft class goes to the Cleveland Browns at 6, and that is Jordan Tyson. And I do want to preface, all 3 of these receivers are elite. All 3 of these receivers in the right scenario can be consistent 1,080 catch wide receiver ones in the right scenario. I think Jordan Tyson just has the highest ceiling. I think Jordan Tyson's the best separator. And me personally, when I'm evaluating a receiver, separation is the number one thing that's most important to me. And then you combine Jordan Tyson's ability to separate with his ability after the catch. And what Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate do better than Jordan Tyson is that contested catchability, is they're better tracking the football. However, Jordan Tyson can still do it, just not as high of a clip as Tate and Lemon can. I think Carnell Tate's a better route runner against man coverage. I think Mekhi Lemon is, comparing Tate and Lemon, that is. I think Tate's better, or Tyson's better than both of them at every aspect of route running. And then you add the cherry on top with his body control, his athleticism, his after the catch ability. Carnell Tate is better on the deeper routes. I mean, some of the way he sets up receivers and safeties in the stems of his routes deep down the field, combine that with his contested catch ability, he is a real dog. But then you also have Mekhi Lemon's ability to find the soft spots in the zone, turn into a runner really quick, and then get upfield. I think both leave a little bit to be desired in the yak department, but I think Carnell Tate's yak doesn't get talked about enough because every time he caught the ball, he was running wide open in the end zone because he gets open a shit ton. So I think Carnell Tate is better than Lemon. I think Tyson's better than both of them. I think Tyson has legitimate elite all-pro upside, whereas I don't know where Carnell Tate and especially I don't know what Mekhi Lemon's ceiling is a slightly worse Amon-Ra St. Brown. Carnell Tate and Tyson have way higher ceilings than Mekhi Lemon for sure. At 7, if Jeremiah Love falls to 7 to the Washington Commanders, they shouldn't even think twice. I mean, that is such a lie. If I turn this dude's tape on for the first time since actually watching him during the regular season, and Jeremiah Love, ladies and gentlemen, that guy ran a corner route against Arkansas, lined up in the slot, and the slot corner touched the earth because of the route Jeremiah Love ran. Then he caught the ball. He's elite. I saw somebody say he's not a Bijan, Saquon level prospect. I disagree. I think Jeremiah Love is as good a prospect as Bijan Robinson, as Saquon Barkley was. It's just those two guys didn't have a Jadarian Price in their backfield that was also averaging 6 yards a carry. So Jeremiah Love didn't put up the same numbers that those guys did. Same thing with Ashton Genty. But Jeremiah Love was back-to-back seasons, almost 7 yards a carry. He can line up in the slot. He has a route tree the same way Bijan and Saquon have route trees. He has really, really good hands. He's just as good in open space. He'll also run through your face, and he has breakaway speed. I think Jeremiah Love is as good of a prospect as Saquon and Bijan and Genty. I think he might be. Him and Genty are really neck and neck. I mean, people are thinking Genty's a bust because we live in fantasy football world and he wasn't the RB1. But Genty still had a really, really strong year considering the circumstance he was in. I think Jeremiah Love is that same echelon of prospect. And you throw him in the backfield with Jaden Daniels, that is a really, really scary sight to behold. And then you are a Saints fan and David Bailey falls to you at 8. You are salivating. But I think I've become a little bit more bearish on David Bailey the further we've gotten into this program. He's still a really good player. He's still my edge 3, but I think I've comfortably got Ruben Bain as my edge 1, Arvell as my edge 2. And David Bailey just lacked production against some really, really good passers. Like against Fano, he was successful against Fano in very friendly downs for a pass rusher. Like some of his best reps came on 3rd and 50s, 4th and 50s, while Texas Tech was up 2 scores. Like, that's a very favorable matchup. And he won those. Like, you still have to win those. But I think that people are like saying Bailey cooked him. I don't see it that way whatsoever. And then the Chiefs at 9 have their pick of the litter when it comes to the offensive tackles, and they're going to take the best pass blocking tackle available, and that would be Spencer Fano out of Utah. Again, him and David Bailey going back and forth, going to war. This was the only matchup that these two really saw. At least David Bailey saw some other edges, obviously, in the college football playoffs, some other tackles. But this was the best edge rusher that Spencer Fano saw, and I thought he held up great. I don't know why this website, PFSN, has him so low, especially under guys like Monroe Freeling and Caleb Lumu. Francis Mauiaga, I've only really watched 2 or 3 games of Miami tape, and that was a long time ago, so I might have to redive, at least with them offensively. I was not too impressed. I think Fano's been the best tackle so far on paper. And then the Bengals here with Mansour Delane staring them in the face. That's a no-brainer. I think he's the best corner in this draft. And Jermod McCoy is right there behind him. It's just Jermod McCoy hasn't played in a while. That's the only reason Delane is this far. So I think we see a little bit of a mini run on corners here with Delane going to the Bengals, McCoy going to the Dolphins, who desperately need corner help. Oh, I think I fucked up, though, low-key. I totally fucked up. Because if I fucked up here, chat, because I forgot the Dolphins traded Jalen Waddle because I'm a clown. Carnell Tate is here. The Dolphins would go Carnell Tate, which is fine, though, because Jermod McCoy would go to the Cowboys. So let's just do that. I adjusted it. I made it right. We have Carnell Tate going to the Dolphins. We have Jermod McCoy going to the Cowboys. We have the Rams on the clock, and Devontae Adams is on his way out. And the Rams' biggest weakness offensively right now is their wide receiver 3 position. It's looking like Jordan Whittington going into the season. They lost to Atwell. So wide receiver depth is a priority here. And if Makai Lemon is staring them in the face here, then this is a match made in heaven. Although I do like Makai Lemon's fit with the Chiefs more than the Rams. I do think he has trouble breaking the press. And what better offense to go into? The one that's going to have you moving a lot behind the line of scrimmage. And he's an underrated blocker as well. And you need to block to be able to play wide receiver for the Rams. Give me Makai Lemon to the Rams, and what a receiving core that would be going into next season. That is just disgusting. And then Francis Mauiaga falls to the Ravens. The Ravens are in need of offensive line help. They could go Oluvega Ioane, who was in that tier almost. I have to watch a little bit more, but I've yet to see him lose a rep in the limited Penn State football I have watched. The Ravens need interior offensive line play. They get a blue chip potential Hall of Fame guy in Oluvega Ioane. The Bucks on the clock. They have their pick, man. Keldrick Falk stinks. That guy stinks. I don't understand what the appeal is with Keldrick Falk. Maybe I need to read a scouting report on him, but I've watched the tape. He has no production. He had more sacks in 2024 or in 2025 than he did in 2024 than he did in 2025. He stinks I watched Arkansas versus Auburn's defense. Keldrick Falk was a non-factor, didn't impact a single play. He's just tall and long. He may be John Franklin Myers type of build if he's as strong as John Franklin Myers, but I don't see him panning out to be a productive edge rusher in the NFL. So that doesn't make sense for me here. If I'm Tampa Bay, they could use a little bit of offensive line help. They could use some safety help with Dylan Thieneman. They have a lot of holes on their defense. I think edge or defensive line is the move here. And there's a guy. Where is he on here? How far down do they have him, bro? Holy shit. Lee Hunter is the most underrated defensive tackle, clearly, if they have him at 44. He doesn't belong this far down on the list. I would take him, Woods, or McDonald. I think they're all in the same tier as of right now. That is very subject to change. But the Bucks are a really interesting team here. They have guards. They have tackles. Like, their offensive line isn't in that horrible of a spot as long as it can stay healthy. Do they just go safety here with Dylan Thieneman? That's an absolute possibility. I have no idea what to do with this team right now. I feel like Thieneman makes a lot of sense, but they do have Antoine Winfield. Why would they double up on safeties? Todd Bowles is a defensive guy. He has taken a safety earlier before, like he did with the Jets and Jamal Adams. When they took Jamal Adams 6th overall, I think Thieneman's really smart, physical player. They take him at 15, get some help on the back end, and they have a young secondary now. They did just lose Jamel Dean. So they need Benjamin Morrison, the rookie last year out of Notre Dame, to step up in a major way, get Thieneman and Antoine Winfield, and then hopefully they have a little bit of stuff brewing here in Tampa Bay in the back end. Now the Jets back on the clock. They have been loading up on the defensive side of the football. They could use another offensive play. Whether that's Mauiaga, Lumu, Caden Proctor. They could just say, fuck it. Let's go, Caden Proctor. Let's get big as we possibly can. You look at the Eagles' offensive line that was so dominant the year they won the Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley. They were just the biggest, meanest group in the land, but they do need so much help on the defensive side of the football. I think a guy like Peter Woods here makes a lot of sense. I'm not sold on Avion Terrell, but a lot of people are, so maybe I need to turn on and watch his tape just a little bit more here. This would be an interesting spot for the Jets to fall into here at 16 because they need a lot of help, a lot of holes on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't think there are that many holes. There's not as many holes as a lot of people think. I think they're going to trade out. I think they're going to trade out with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to come up from 21 to 16 and give the Jets another third-round pick to select their quarterback of the future. The Steelers trade up. Aaron Rodgers said, if Aaron Rodgers is back for another year, Ty Simpson is the perfect pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This dude operated a Ryan Grubb offense that was in Seattle a year ago. It's a high-octane passing offense that got Michael Penix and Washington to the national championship with Kalen DeBoer a couple of years ago when Penix was throwing to Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, and Jalen Polk, I believe the other receiver was. And that offense was fireworks. Penix was in the Heisman conversation until Jaden Daniels had 8 touchdowns against Georgia Southern in week 15 of the season with Bo Nix in that Heisman race. Ty Simpson operated this offense at a really high level. Now, he made a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of bad stuff on tape, but boy, is there a lot of good stuff on tape as well. Obviously, the starts is a real concern. If you have this guy sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, and you get to see Aaron Rodgers operate this offense, and they do still have a little bit of holes on the offensive line. Who knows about Broderick Jones? They lost Isaac Seumalo, but if they can shore up those holes, give Aaron Rodgers a good offensive line to help him run an efficient offense while Ty Simpson sits and watches for a year, hell yeah, Ty Simpson can develop into a franchise quarterback. So the Steelers come up with the Jets. They trade 21 and a third-round pick next year to move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots to take Ty Simpson. And then if you are the Lions at 17, you need a tackle. Francis Mauiago, Caleb Lumu, Caden Proctor all staring you in the face there. They go with whichever one of those three they think is the best. As of right now, I think Caden Proctor is the best, quite frankly, or Caleb Lumu. I'm just not that sold on Francis Mauiaga just yet. So the Lions go with, I mean, Caden Proctor's my gut, so I'm just going to go. I think he's the best. He's a fucking behemoth of a man. Obviously, there's a lot to refine there, but the dude's like 6'7". Here, can we get this guy? Can we get this guy's measurables in front of me? He's like 6'7", 280 or 380 or something crazy. Is it on here somewhere? Is it really not on here? Shouldn't it just be at the top? Oh yeah, I'm dumb. 6'7", 366. Just an absolute fucking behemoth of a man. And you'll have to see from Des Moines, Iowa as well. That doesn't hurt at all whatsoever. The Vikings on the clock here. Their tackles are old. They can't stay healthy. It's Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw. They get some depth on the offensive line with Mauiaga. They go tackle here as well to shore up that offensive line that just simply hasn't been able to stay healthy. Like Christian Darrisaw, when he's on the field, is a top 5 tackle in the sport. He can't stay healthy. The Carolina Panthers, who are one of the busiest teams in free agency, what could they do here? They could use a running mate next to Dwayne Brown on the interior of that defense. And I think Lee Hunter is a fucking problem, bro. The guy's like 350 pounds in his own right. What is he? 321, 6'4". That guy was just eating up blocks all season for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. He was arguably the best player on that defense. He's got so much strength, really good arm length. He can drive guys back with the bull rush, but he just keeps guys off of him and finds running backs and sheds blocks and makes plays. He is a real run stuffer. Throw him in the middle with Dwayne Brown. It's not Dwayne Brown. I keep saying Dwayne Brown. It's fucking not Dwayne Brown. I feel like such a clown. I did this last episode too. What the fuck is this dude's name? It's gonna bother me. I gotta look it up, chat. I gotta look it up. Panthers defensive tackle. Derek Brown. Thank you. That guy's fucking all pro. He's borderline all pro. Get him a real stud in the middle of that defense that was awful, historically bad against the run a couple of years ago. Now you've got Devin Lloyd, Jalen Phillips, who was a really, really great run defender, Lee Hunter, Derek Brown. And then what is it? Nick Scorton on the other edge. That's this defensive line going into next season. That is nasty. The Cowboys at 20. Avion Terrell. Pencil that in there. They just go corner, Jamal McCoy, Avion Terrell, replace Trayvon Diggs. I guess they could have gone safety here as well, but they just need DBs, bro. Their offense is in a really, really good spot. They have one of the most youngest, best offensive lines in the NFL. They have really, really good receivers. They just extended Javonte Williams. They're not going to go defensive tackle because they have Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams. They could go off-ball linebacker a little early for CJ Allen. They could take the kid out of Texas who's grown on me a little bit in this draft process, but I'm not going to do that either. But the Jets now back on the clock at 21. What do they do here? And I think they go Peter Woods out of Clemson, who was a top 5 projected pick going into last season. Clemson's defense didn't have as good of a year as it was projected to have, but Peter Woods is still an athletic freak. He's a stud. Throw him on the interior with T'Vondre Sweat. And the Jets have made an emphasis on defensive line this season, or this offseason. Now you've got Ruben Bain, Will McDonald, the 3 gazillion defensive linemen they signed in NFL free agency. Add Peter Woods to that mix, and now the Jets' defensive line. It seems like they've addressed the trenches. If they draft Peter Woods, they've addressed the trenches. 22 Chargers. They need offensive line help. They need offensive line help, especially on the interior. But they also need receivers, man. They need receivers. They need another weapon. Ladd McConkey is great. That's all they have. Ladd McConkey, Oronde Gadsden, Keenan Allen's out of the door. Quentin Johnson just hasn't panned out as a number 1 overall pick, but they also lost Odafe Oweh. They could use some help on the edge. And although I don't like Keldrick Folk, I'm just not in on Keldrick Folk. Maybe I need to watch more. Maybe I need to be not as strict on the Keldrick Folk hate. They could use a guy on the inside to go with not Poona Ford. Oh my gosh. Tyre Tart. They could go with Caden McDonald here. I think Caden McDonald is better than Keldrick Folk. I think Caden McDonald is probably the best defensive player still on the board, not named D'Angelo Pons. And you guys, if you've been listening, you know how I feel about a little bit of D'Angelo Pons. So it's a tough spot here for the Chargers. They have a lot of holes. They're not going to go guard here, I feel like. Is there an Iowa guard on here? No, it's not Logan Jones. I think it's a tackle from Iowa that I'm thinking of that I've really liked a lot. But they could go tackle and just throw one of these guys on the interior. Monroe Freeling's tape is garbage. I think he's incredibly overrated. I watched that guy, the Film Watcher on TikTok. I watched his breakdown on Freeling, and the dude is just not as good as a lot of analysts are panning him out to be. This is a tough spot here. I don't know what the Chargers do here. I honestly don't know what the Chargers do. Is there anybody on the board, anybody that needs an offensive lineman that's later in this draft that could come up and snag? Oh, yeah, there is. All right, we got another trade here. The Chargers are trading down with the Texans. The Houston Texans getting aggressive. They're coming up a good amount. This is a big jump. So it's going to take more. They're 28, 38, and a 4th round pick next year for 2022 for this 22nd overall pick to come up and take Caleb Lomu, the tackle. And I understand they just signed Braden Smith to play right tackle. They have Ariante Ursere. Braden Smith's not going to be around forever. You can never have too many offensive linemen. Get the replacement at right tackle in Caleb Lomu. Beautiful move here by the Houston Texans. Now the Eagles on the clock here, and Howie's a BPA guy. We know this. They did just re-sign. I don't even think Kenyon Sadiq's the best player on there, but they need edge help here. They need edge help. I think Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M has an elite array of edge rush moves. He lacks a lot of power. He has a really, really quick first step, and he struggled to produce against some of the best defensive or offensive tackles in college football, but he is just a speedy edge rusher. But then again, Keldrick Falk this low, maybe I'm missing something, and it would just look better on the graphic, and I won't get chirped for having Keldrick Falk drop this low. And he does have the length to be that Jalen Phillips type of edge setter and run defense. So I'll just do it so I don't get chirped in the graphic, which is kind of pussy of me. I can't lie. The Browns at 24. They went Tyson in the first round. They need offensive line help as well, whether it's on the interior or whether it's on the interior, whether it's a tackle. And Monroe Freeling this far, I don't even like Monroe Freeling that much, so no, I'm not going to do it. They could go quarterback here. They could go Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Allert. No, I'm not going to do that. That'd be rage bait to Browns fans who think Shadussi is really the answer. I promise you, he's not. Who's their CB2 over there? It's Denzel Ward, not Greg Newsome. They traded Greg Newsome for The corner from Jacksonville, I believe, who's not that bad, but they could use a corner offensively. I don't even know, bro. What do the Browns fucking need? Offensive line, right? That's what they didn't. They need offensive line. So, and I'm not a Monroe Freeland guy, but he's probably the best offensive lineman still on the board, and that makes a lot of sense here. The Browns, the Bears at 25, they need edge. They go Akeem Messidor, who took a while to break out. I'm more of a Cassius Howell guy, bro. I can't lie. Where is this dude? Look at this dude. Where's Cassius Howell? They have him so far on here. And I watched a video on Cabe Yakis or whatever, and he is a problem in his own right. But I love me some Cassius Howell. His first step and his bend is elite. He doesn't have a lot of power. He's not awful in run defense, but he's definitely not an asset against the run either. He can come in and be a good edge rusher on the other side of Montez Sweat. Akeem Messidor is probably more proven, going to be a better day one starter than Cassius Howell, but Cassius Howell's production is there. Cassius Howell's bend is there. His speed is quick first step. He's going to be a pure speed rusher, maybe not a great edge setter against the run, but they have the athletes, they have the linebackers where they can make up for it. Give me Cassius Howell. And they just brought in Kobe Bryant. So I like what the Bears have done. They need an edge rusher. They go Kobe Bryant. The Bills at 26. This is a team that could also use some edge help. They could also use another receiver. And Omar Cooper here, I like that a lot to complement your Keon Coleman's and your DJ Moore's. This is more your possession guy, not your deep threat contested catch guy. But I also think their edge, they brought in Bradley Chubb. They still need help in that area. And then I think a guy like Caden McDonald this far low on the board is a steal for Buffalo. He's not an edge, but you put him with Ed Oliver, and then you have Bradley Chubb and Gregory Rousseau, or AJ Epinesa, excuse me, whichever one. I get those two confused. Whichever one isn't a free agent right now, then you fix a lot of problems. Like Bradley Chubb's a good run defender. Caden McDonald is a good run defender. The Bills stunk against the run last year. I think that makes a lot of sense for Buffalo. The Niners at 27, they could use it. I mean, they're going BPA. They're going BPA. And right now, the best player available, I think, quite frankly, I think it's D'Angelo Pons. I really do. I think it's D'Angelo Pons. I think D'Angelo Pons is unbelievable. They did just sign Mike Evans. They do have Ricky Pearsall. Omar Cooper here would be tremendous for the Niners as well. But I just think D'Angelo Pons is the best player. It's still available. I just do. And I'm not moving off of that. And now the Chargers set themselves up in a really, really good spot with this trade back. They get more draft capital. And look at what was it with they traded down with who? The Texans. Not a single corner came off the board besides D'Angelo Pons, which going right in front of them kind of sucks. And this area here could be where we see that run on corners start with your Keith Abneys, your Colton Hoods, your Chris Johnsons, your Brandon Ceases. And I think Colton Hood goes here to the Chargers. The Chiefs would probably take D'Angelo Pons if he's there because the Chiefs know ball and they would know D'Angelo Pons is an absolute beast. But the Chiefs go Brandon Cease. The Dolphins went receiver. They get a corner now. They could go Emil Nick. Oh, this is tough here because this dude is a dog according to some videos I've seen, but I haven't watched his full tape. And the Dolphins did just trade Mika Fitzpatrick, so they had good post safety here. They also need help at corner. They also need help on the offensive line. Are there any good offensive tackles still available? Not anybody too ridiculous. Oh, that's defensive tackle, you dumbass. So it's a tough spot here if you're Miami. They do have Darren Walsh. They could just go Kenyon Sadiq, load up on playmakers, which kind of sounds nasty for Malik Willis, but then their offensive line is just a joke. So they're in a really, really tough spot here, the Dolphins. They have too many holes to fill and not enough draft picks to fill them. And you traded Jalen Waddle for Akeem Messidor. Like they traded Jalen Waddle for Chris Johnson, Jalen Waddle for Emmanuel Nico Warren, I guess. Like that's just not ideal if I'm the Dolphins. And then if you're the Patriots, it'd be really, really hesitant to not go receiver here if Omar Cooper is just staring you in the face, but he is staring you in the face. You don't do it though. You just signed Romeo Doubs. I trust Kyle Williams and Kayshon Boutte. I am a believer in Kyle Williams more than Patriots fans probably believe in Kyle Williams. Kenyon Sadiq here, the heir apparent to Hunter Henry, isn't a bad play, but they need offensive lineup. And Blake Miller is a guy that my knowledge on Blake Miller comes from the other dude on the Todd McShay show in a TikTok talking about how he doesn't like Blake Miller very much. And then you have some offensive guards here that I have not watched a second of, so I can't really speak on. So we're just going to go who I think the best player available is, in my limited knowledge, and that would be a key Messidor, and it fills a need. I think Omar Cooper is better than Messidor, but Messidor fills a need at edge that the Patriots lost in losing Clavion Chason, veteran, experienced edge rusher for the Patriots. And the Seahawks would also go BPA here. They had a rookie tight end last year. They just signed JSN to a ridiculous deal. They did lose Kenneth Walker. They go Jadarian Price, who is elite. Elite, Chad, I'm telling you. And that's our first full round mock draft Monday. I really like this one. We had a few trades. I think the Jets made out like bandits. If you got Peter Woods and Reuben Bain, that's nasty. I think the Browns, looking at this, the Browns had a pretty good day. I mean, Spencer Fano falling to the Chiefs at 9 is ridiculous. The Dolphins basically in the aggregate trade Minka Fitzpatrick, Jalen Waddle for Emmanuel Nico Warren and Carnell Tate. I guess get younger and cheaper. So that's thinking about it like that is not crazy. Jadarian Price is elite. I'm telling you. Everybody's talking about Jeremiah Love right now, rightfully so. I think he's in that Bijan, Genty, Saquon tier. Jadarian Price would be in that like Breece Hall, late first round type of tier if he was in late first, early second type of tier if he wasn't on the same team as Jeremiah Love. Like he is elite. He can catch passes out of the backfield, even though he barely did because it was Jeremiah Love's show. One cut and go, consistently got the edge, fast, makes guys miss in open space at an elite level. Jadarian Price is a dog. And that's the first round mock. So if you made it this far, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. I go live every single day on TikTok. I love you guys. Make sure you go follow on TikTok, hit that subscribe button. I'll talk to y'all later.